Hi, and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where we believe that any laundry pile could be a laundry room if you believe in yourself.
Or don't.
I am Theresa. I am host number one.
I'm Angie. I'm host number two.
And in case you're wondering, this is a laundry sponsored podcast of history.
Brought to you by Tide. Fabric softener.
I wish. Wait, are they a
They
fabric softener? I thought they were
sick.
a soap. Are we doing things
No, there.
wrong?
I was saying Tide and fabric softener. Well, that would explain
Oh,
it, wouldn't it? No.
oh,
I can't think of the fabric softener brand. Downy? Downy?
Downy.
Is it Downy?
Yeah,
Yeah. Tide brought to you by Tide and Downy.
these are things.
That sounds like a law firm.
Tide and Downy.
Yeah.
Tide and Downy, Downy, Downy.
And Tide.
Right?
I like it.
Well, I mean, okay, so I may have been just editing last episode. So I may have the firm understanding that you got to go last when you covered Hawaii's last princess. And
Okay.
in the time between you telling me about it and me hitting record now, I actually went and saw the last Hawaiian princess's mausoleum and her pictures
Beautiful.
at the Iolani Palace and was like, girl, your girl is like a bomb. Like, and then like, okay, if you go to Iolani Palace, have you ever gone? Did you go when you were in
No.
Oahu?
I
Okay.
was not on Oahu. I was on Maui and the Big Island.
Okay. So if you go to the palace and you go to the basement, you have to go to the basement,
Okay.
and the basement's like a whole self-guided bit. You don't need to have like, well, I think you do need to have tickets, but you can actually go down to the bottom and do that on your own before or after the tour. You can see the 13-carat diamond that King Kolakua, I think I said his name wrong, had at a pinky ring, but that the last princess actually had modified and put into a pendant. And you're like, that is a massive diamond. And that was on some dude's pinky. That would be my entire pinky.
Could you imagine the kind of swagger
Ah,
that
my goodness.
accompanies that?
And to realize Hawaii has no gemstones organically, like natively, like like those are all imported. They're not like kicking over rocks going, hey, that one's shiny.
What?
What? Yet I promise you.
Yeah, no, I don't I'd never really thought about it, but I certainly don't doubt it.
I mean, there's a lot of things you shouldn't do with me. Doubting me is one of them. Would you stop?
I didn't say I ever did I?
I mean, like,
Do
you
you
know what? I don't need your naysaying. I don't need your
do you need
negativity
a
in my
hug? Do
sphere.
you need a hug? Do you need a hug?
I need a shower and a hug and a snack.
Me too.
Maybe a nap.
Me too. For like the next 5 days.
Oh, girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, but anyhow, we came to talk history,
Yeah.
and I
Here we
believe
are.
it's your turn to go first, unless you want me to,
Okay.
in which case I can, because do you have, I mean, I could go,
Do you need a palate cleanser?
maybe. Should I be more
If your
committal like
question,
that?
well, yes, one way or the other, do you need a
I'll,
palate
you know what?
cleanser?
I'll go first. Just be on the safe side.
Okay.
Just so you can bring up the rear.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the story of Christine Jorgensen.
Okay.
Not bringing any names. Okay, great, lovely. All right, so my sources: National World War II Museum, From G.I. Joe to G.I. Jane, Christine Jorgensen story by Rebecca Pohl, Christine Jorgensen, a personal autobiography, PBS, American Experience, Transformation, the story of Christine Jorgensen.
This is
Looking,
starting. This is anyway.
I'm studying your face to see if you know who this is.
I read an article recently, but they weren't an American, so I am
I
going to
win.
assume that you win.
Okay, so Christine
Now
is
I'm
bored.
questioning the name of the person I read about.
I'm just questioning. No, I'm joking. I was gonna be super snarky, and I'm not. I'm gonna pull back. That was the filter engaging.
I'm really impressed, and I know you're only being super snarky because of the last 30 minutes of our life.
I mean, these are things I can't, you know what? I'm feeling
That's it. That's
salty
all I
and it's
got.
all my fault. And so I can't do anything, right? Like,
What are you gonna do? You know?
ah. So Christine is born George William Jorgensen Jr. on May 30th, 1926 in the Bronx in New York City.
The Bronx.
The Bronx. Now, in her autobiography, Jorgensen talks about several things about her early childhood. One of the things she brings up is that she really wanted a doll. And instead of getting this doll when she was little, she got a toy truck because born a boy. Now, during summers growing up, Jorgensen and her sister, like they had the quintessential you go to summer camp, right? Well, the first time they go to summer camp, sister goes to the girls' camp, young George goes to the boys' camp. Now, Jorgensen hated the boys' camp and hated it so badly, begged to come home, wrote a letter. It was basically like, pick me up. 2 days in, I'm done. This is it for me.
Same,
And
George.
right, like I get it, especially around boys. Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't want to go to camp. Just people
Yeah,
in general.
you're not wrong. So from there on out, I guess because, the parents needed childcare, the main reasons we would send our kids away for the summer. During summers, she would get shipped off to a farm owned by a family friend. And there she would run around with the boys on the farm. And when they would skinny dip, she would do this thing where she would always have an excuse to wear clothes. Like it just was never hot enough, or it was never the right, didn't want to get the mud on her direct skin, whatever it was. There's always a reason. So even as a child, Jorgensen describes herself as shy and private. In one of her earliest memories, she recalls questioning her identity when she's talking to her mom. She asks her mom, why didn't God make all of us alike? Meaning, why are we boys and girls? Why can't we all just be one gender? And her mom gently explained that the world needed both men and women, and there was no way of knowing before a baby was born whether it would be a boy or a girl. And this kind of broke Christine's heart. Now, she does find a lot of support with her grandmother, Jorgensen, and, really trying to love her as a whole human and support her. After Jorgensen graduates high school, during World War II, she tries to enlist in the army, but she's denied because of her dainty size and weight. And I mean like dainty, like
Like Captain
110.
America.
Exactly, Captain America. So imagine that kind of physique, but much more feminine, right?
Okay.
Now, after a couple of months, she's later drafted into the army. Almost as the war is over, she's stationed at Fort Dix in New Jersey. And it's during that service that she keeps mostly to herself and she starts identifying an attraction to men. She keeps that all to herself because at this time, many service members fear being exposed or labeled as homosexual. And basically, if you're a soldier who's homosexual during this time, you could get prison time, a dishonorable discharge, or just the label, right? Which is awful. And that sucks that that was the environment, but that is what it is. She explains that she wanted to be accepted by the army for two reasons. First, she wanted to belong. She just wanted to be needed and to join the activities that were going on around her. And the second, she wanted her parents to be proud of her. Now, she
This
works as,
checks.
I mean, who doesn't want our parents to be proud of us, right? Like,
Yeah.
so she works as a clerical worker. She manages thousands of discharged soldiers after V-Day for 14 months until she herself is honorably discharged in December of 1946.
Okay. So you said honorably, right? I want to make sure I heard you
Honorably,
right.
honorably.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Excellent. That's what I like to
gold
hear.
stars.
Perfect.
Now it's after her service comes to an end that she uses her GI Bill and she goes to photography school in New Haven, Connecticut, and dental assistant school in New York City. Now she's still deeply unhappy. And that's when she begins looking for answers in books because one of us.
Yeah.
And that's when she finds a book called The Male Hormone, and it piques her interest. And it's a full on aha light bulb moment. And that's when she recognizes that bodily chemistry could be the blame of what she's going through.
Okay.
And because it's talking about, testosterone versus estrogen and what causes what and, all of that fun stuff. And in her autobiography, she goes through this very in-depth explanation where she shares about experimenting with taking estrogen. And we're talking goes to the pharmacy and just goes, I need to pick up estrogen for a science experiment. And the pharmacist is like, well, a science experiment, you say? Well, be careful because this is dangerous.
Because science.
And so she's guessing on the dosage that she needs to take and really just experimenting
For science.
for science. And it's after a couple of weeks she starts noticing positive changes. Now, she knows that gender affirming surgeries are happening in Europe, I think in Sweden. And it's during this time she decides she needs to make an extended family visit to Denmark. Just, just to see the family and get the care she needs.
Does she even have family in Denmark?
Thankfully, she does.
Oh, okay.
I mean, last name is Jorgensen.
Oh, I assumed, but at the same time, she was born in the Bronx, so I wasn't sure how
Yeah.
much family
You
stayed
know,
in.
you're not wrong. I mean, my last name is
Yeah.
Potratz. Husband's family was Polish, but here for years. And then I think my family immigrated to the US in 1624.
Exactly.
Been here a minute.
Yeah.
So she knows that the surgeries that she's looking for are happening like in Sweden and things like that from what she's read. But she goes to Denmark because close enough to keep the family off her back. And then she can go do what she needs to do. Now, when she
I
arrives in
like this.
Denmark, I mean, to be fair, that was pretty smart on her. Now she goes with like just a couple bucks to her name kind of deal. Like she's not arriving Miss Moneybags. The GI Bill doesn't cover a lot.
Right.
She meets with an endocrinologist over there named Dr. Christian Hamburger, who agrees.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
look, it's
I was doing so good.
I know. I should have just skipped over that last name, but here we are. The next chunk of that sentence, though, is the most insane part. Well, not the most insane part of the story, but it seems I'm an American, so this is the most insane part of the story. He agrees to do the treatment and procedure for free.
What? I hate this.
We're American.
No,
He
no.
agrees to do the surgery and treatment for free.
Oh, that must be wonderful.
Now, I mean, to be fair, there have been like 30 of these types of treatment protocols and surgeries and experimentations done. So this is going to a doctor who's never done it before, who understands the theoretical frameworks, but doesn't understand the long-term outcomes because they
Right,
don't
because
exist yet.
we're still in the experimental phase, essentially.
I mean, even if you've done all of them in the world, you've done what, 30?
Yeah,
I
we
don't
we
want
still
to
have no long-term effects knowledge. Yeah, nope.
know. When I picked my
Yeah.
knee surgeon, I was like, how many hundreds of this exact surgery have you done?
Yeah.
Hundreds. Not like,
Tens.
yeah, I mean, look, dude, I don't want a thousandaire doing this surgery. I want somebody whose
Yeah.
hands are worth money. Are your hands insured? Do you care about them?
I felt the same way when I got LASIX. How many times have you done this? Shot a
Right?
laser at somebody's eyeball. Like,
Not like,
because
I'll
10's
do
not
it,
gonna work for me.
I'll do it for free just to see what happens. But you got to write your stuff down.
No,
You know what I
thank
mean?
you.
Like,
Yeah.
so there's a, like, that's like a whole quoi? Quoi? So
Yeah.
He's doing it for free, pro bono work. She's his first patient, and he is the first person to diagnose her as a transsexual and not a homosexual. That is wild to me.
I agree.
Now, he's doing things like testing her hormone levels and going, okay, well, that's your levels look good for a woman. Like you've got low-ish estrogen for a woman, but also like very low testosterone for a man. But you've been taking estrogen. So let's stop the estrogen. Oh, you feel really tired and gross. Well, I have to record this for science purposes. Now we're going to add the estrogen back in. And now, oh my gosh, you feel so much better. Your mood is better. You've got
Weird.
energy. Like maybe there's other things going on.
Who
Oh,
would have thought?
you have underdeveloped sex organs. Interesting. Like there's all of these things you're like, oh, there's so much going on with this poor person. So it's 2 years that Jorgensen undergoes hormone treatment in Denmark. As she's going through this, she's undergoing psychiatric evaluations, and then she goes to the surgical step to remove her male genitalia. Now, none of this happens in
Okay.
a vacuum because while this is
Right.
going on, she is without a job and not independently wealthy. Yes, he's doing the surgery for free, but she still has to eat.
Yeah, okay. So I'm assuming family is caring for her.
She is taking her photography skills and
Okay.
she is going around various parts of Denmark and recording things on a device that will allow her to make those recordings. And she is editing them together into a travel film that she's putting together as kind of an ad hoc documentary kind of deal.
I
Part
like
of
it.
it is for Denmark itself. Part of it she plans on packaging and selling when she gets to the US, right?
Okay.
So she has this whole thing set up. And now there's going to be a part that I get to. She doesn't necessarily talk about it a lot in her autobiography, but some of the other sources cover it. Part of the surgery that she doesn't undergo until years later is the creation of the vaginal canal.
Okay.
But while she's in Denmark, she undergoes a lot of the other surgeries and she is dressing as a man up until the very last step. Now,
Yeah,
as
this
soon as she
checks.
hits
Okay.
like that surgical step, she's still not dressing as a woman. She gets a hold of the State Department and says, my passport is no longer accurate because it says male. But from a medical perspective, I am female. And as soon as the passport comes through and the State Department goes, yeah, okay, this checks. And they give her a passport stating she's female.
Okay.
Then she starts dressing as a woman. So
Okay.
she doesn't wear the hair and the makeup and like she is trying to live in this very split world until she feels she is honored by documentation.
This is kind of a reasonable thing. Yeah, I don't disagree with it.
Right. It's a very interesting path, but I don't, like it all makes sense to me. Now, it's at the time that she goes through that female part where she gets her name changed and gets the new passport that she changes her name to Christine off of to honor her doctor's work because his first name is like what, Christian? And so she's honoring
Okay.
the person who got her there. So as she's going through surgery or recovering from surgery, it's December 1st, 1952,
Okay.
that a person walks into her room holding a telegram. And the telegram is a sharing the news, like it's an AP wire about Jorgensen's gender affirming surgery. And it includes excerpts of the letter that she wrote to her parents and photographs that only her parents would have.
So mom and pop sold her out.
She
I don't
doesn't
like this.
know, but that's kind of where she's stuck. And as the person shows her this telegram, the person goes, I hate to be the one to do this, but I'm a reporter. Can I get paid?
Ugh. Figures.
Her press coverage pushes Queen Elizabeth II, Lizzie II's coronation off the front page.
That is wild.
Isn't that wild?
Right, because life doesn't happen in a vacuum. I was not even thinking about Lizzie too. Minding my own business over
Right?
here.
There are more words written about Christine Jorgensen during the next year than are written about any other topic.
That
Period.
is insane.
The headlines are just absolutely bananas. They're emphasizing her GI background and embracing her as an American beauty, describing her legs and her platinum blonde hair because she is Scandinavian, right? So she has
She's gorgeous no matter
naturally
what.
blonde hair, like bottle blonde hair from birth. Now they talk about her high fashion clothes, but when she stepped into her female persona, she was like hand making her own clothes and not necessarily a seamstress at the time. So she was really kind like she didn't earn the high fashion yet. Like she gets there, but not at the moment. Now, her patriotism as a WW2 veteran and her beautiful feminine attributes embody the American values and structure, and they captivate the public and the press because it's during that time where women need to be in a very narrow framework.
Yeah.
Now,
How
her
wild.
isn't that insane? Like, because I had never heard about her.
Yeah.
When I do a search on podcasts, we're the first ones that I know of that have covered her.
That's that's nuts. To know that we went from having every word in the press that year spoken to not even what, 70 years? I
Yeah,
guess we're at
and
80 years. Like,
you and I are like, who? And meanwhile, Lizzie too's like, I got a brand new
excuse me?
crown.
Like, have you seen my hat?
Yeah, it's pointy. It's got the rocks in it.
Wild.
Yep. But okay, so this is the 50s. So her transition is also like embraced by the public because it embraces science and scientific breakthrough and all of these things because they can take a man and turn it into a woman. And isn't science amazing, right?
I'm really waiting for the shoe to fall.
I mean, like everybody isn't so kind. Like there's a lot of great things written about her, but there's a lot of things that are kind of like, ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Like things nowadays aren't the best. Now, she experienced her share of hate and discrimination. So it's 6 months after that the media released her story that reporters reach out to the surgeons who did her surgery. And then they kind of leak that she doesn't have a vaginal canal. Not yet. So she's not even a full woman. And they
Oh,
really start to lambaste her, right? Now, I mean, before this, they assumed that she had one.
why wouldn't you?
Why would you even care what's in somebody's pants?
Also that, but why would you even think about it? I guess, yeah, why would you care? Why would you even think about it in the same sentence in this case?
Her former supporters felt betrayed at the discovery and claimed she could not be a woman without ovaries and other reproductive organs.
Oh, so I nailed it when I said the other shoe was gonna fall, or the shoe was gonna fall.
I mean, honestly, it was perfect. I couldn't have edited this together better. Previously, she'd avoided these questions that related to her anatomy because I don't answer questions about my anatomy.
Yeah, mind your business.
Not, yeah, exactly. Like, did you put this ring here? No.
Okay, then bye.
Go F yourself.
Yeah, agreed.
The media starts to shun her. And according to author David Serlin, they exposed her as an quote, altered male and later a morbid transvestite. Jorgensen was seen nothing more, and I hate this next line, a limp-wristed queer who indulged in the activities culturally identified as female and therefore effeminate.
That makes me so mad.
It's in May of 1954 that she goes in for that final surgery to give the whole. And now she is without issue as far as I'm concerned. But she goes on, like she changes. Now remember, she was shy, private, thrust into the limelight by reporters. And it's also during this time, I didn't put this in my notes, so I'm just going to riff on this one. That, as she's talking to her parents and she's like, dude, what the hell? Like, how did you, they had excerpts of the letter and they had photos that only you guys had. What the heck? And her parents very calmly tell her, like, look, reporters showed up at the house. They knew large portions of the story and said that they were going to publish regardless of our input and said that we had a chance to help frame the narrative. And so we gave them the letter so that they could at least speak truthfully.
Okay, I want to hope that's the truth.
And I think it is. Like, having read the full autobiography, I think that's the case because later it comes out that one of her school friends sold her out to the press and then started the whole thing.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
So mom and dad were just trying to
They were trying to do right by their kid.
contain it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And it was just kind of an unfortunate thing. So she kind of hears about it later. And of course, because it's the 50s, it's not like we had text message and email and, you're operating under very constrained
Yeah.
communication circumstances. Now, during this, she is also like courted heavily by the press who are just like, you could come work at my nightclub. Have you ever thought about being an actress? You should come. Anything you can think of, right? So she
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
on to become an entertainer and performs in many nightclubs and kind of tries to break into Hollywood. She does kind of, but she never makes it truly big. Early on in her career, she talks about how when she would perform the first 10 minutes of the show, the audience would be absolutely silent. They're not laughing, they're not coughing, they're just staring. And then it's after everyone got over staring at her and they kind of loosened up. Then it was just like any other performance. Then they're happy and go lucky. And her co-star had said they're just trying to understand what they're looking at. They're trying to really break down what they're seeing. And until they can wrap their brain around it, they're not going to laugh at the jokes. They're not going to enjoy the dance numbers. But she puts on kind of like a full-on show, like a
I love
variety show
this.
kind of deal.
Okay. I'm thinking, I don't know why, but I'm totally imagining Lucille Ball.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah. And I'll show you pictures of her. She's fabulous. Now, she ends up having several romantic relationships and she gets engaged twice. But at one point, she's denied a marriage license because her birth certificate identified her as male.
Oh, right. I didn't even think of that. Okay.
Well, and like as she's going through stuff, she's like talks to her lawyer and she's like, I mean, I have a passport that says female. Do I need to change the birth certificate? And the lawyer's like, no one cares about a birth certificate. It just shows that a baby was born. Like,
Yeah.
that's nothing. So she goes get her marriage license and the clerk is like, I don't want to do this. So hold on a second. And then like disappears and like spends time trying to find the loophole that they can turn her down on.
Wow.
Yeah. And like the first thing they turned her
Fantastic.
down on was, well, we need to see the fiance. We need to see his divorce certificate because you guys say divorce, but we need proof of divorce. And then as they're trying to bring that in, they're like, oh, and you're male. That's it.
Got it.
Yep. You look hard
People.
enough for a reason, you'll find it.
Truth.
Now, to compound her struggles, one of her fiancés loses his job when their engagement becomes public because the company doesn't want to be tied to the scandal.
Right. That makes it easier.
Right? Isn't that just logical?
Yeah. Stupid.
Yep. Yeah. And I should say her shows are extremely tame. All the bits are covered. Like she's just singing songs. But the
She's
fact
Lucille balling it up.
that's it. That's it. But because she is herself, just because of, a couple of headlines that were sensationalized about her and vilified her in the press, now we got to turn her down. Like she's turned away from nightclubs. Like they cancel contracts because, well, we need her to submit to an anatomical uh we need to investigate before we
She's
can
not gonna
allow
be the
her to.
Pope.
You know what I mean? Like nobody
Ugh.
else has to submit to an examination to go sing a song, perform a monologue, and do a dance number.
Well, last I heard, that's not how you get those jobs.
Uh,
Well,
Now, by the 1960s, she's still performing, but her audiences are smaller. And in the PBS clip, um, they talk about how Jorgensen reinvented herself as an elder statesman of the sexual liberation movement. She's driving crowds of 12,000 people to hear her talk,
okay.
which is like damn impressive.
I gotta say, yeah, I'm not even a little bit upset. Get it,
Nope.
girlfriend.
Throughout her life, she's receiving thousands of letters, both positive and negative. A majority of the letters are from people who are asking for her help because they identify with her in some way. Now, she does all that she said she only wished that she could help all the individuals who reached out to her, but in a way, she did that by staying true to her identity and being a role model. And then she goes on to use her story as a lecture at colleges across the US on gender identity.
I wouldn't have seen that in the 60s. But I mean, I
I,
guess that makes sense.
right? Like you kind of hear it, you're like, oh my gosh, the hell yeah. But
Yeah,
it's like, that's not happening enough now.
it's impressive.
Exactly. So her life create or inspires a 1970 Hollywood film called The Christine Jorgensen Story,
Oh, what
which
a creative name.
I mean, look, the book is also named basically the same thing. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
consistent branding.
yeah,
Because her name, right,
consistent.
Christine Jorgensen, is well
That
known.
is her marketing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and so it's just fascinating to know that. And so she lives until May 3rd, 1989, when she dies of bladder and lung cancer,
Ugh.
which is not the best way to go. Um, Her incredible life story still resonates and offers hope for transgender veterans as they pursue self-fulfillment. Jorgensen concluded that the answer to the problem must not lie in sleeping pills and suicide that look like accidents or in jail sentences, but rather in life and the freedom to live it.
Ugh. That could be said for so many veterans, regardless of their
Their gender
their gender,
identity.
their
Yeah.
orientation, any of that. Like
Yeah.
there's so much more care that needs to be given.
And in the preface to her autobiography, the person who wrote it, and I should have added that to my notes, but I didn't, is that it's nowadays she's seemingly fallen out of public consciousness. The fact that we didn't know her name, the fact that there's not 10, 15 podcasts about her, despite that lack of current notoriety that we have, if you go to like a used bookstore, it's going to be near impossible to find a copy of her autobiography because members of the LGBTQ plus community treasure their copies.
That's
They're
cool.
not they're not circulating.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, I will share photos because I wanted to make sure that I had them for you.
Because I love pictures.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, look at those eyebrows. Oh,
You
she's
are
wearing a
all about the
crown.
eyebrows. I know she's got herself a little tiara
Well, I mean,
and
she did unthrone the queen's coronation. She deserves a tiara.
right.
Oh, can we? Okay, first of all, I'm just gonna say she's got that classic 50s glamour look with the red nails and the hand on her on the chin. But the
Hmm.
picture below, she's got the fur coat, the hat, the smile, where she genuinely looks so happy there,
So, funny thing about that
carrying the like
photo where she's
bag.
arm in arm with a man, that photo was taken right after her marriage certificate was denied.
Ugh,
Because, of course, the press found out and were
of course
waiting
they did.
outside.
I don't like the press today.
No, I'm not here to bring you stories that make you excited about the press.
I'm here because you are a palate cleanser. That looks like someone's very sweet young grandmama.
Yeah, if you saw this black and white photo over the mantle, you'd be like, that's my great Aunt Lois. She was a
Yeah,
bit of a
abs
bombshell.
the short cropped hair with I forget the teased bangs. Like,
Yep, yep. The
yep. Oh,
perfect winged eyeliner.
yep.
Can you even?
In fact, her and I are wearing the same blouse today.
Girl,
She knows what's up.
she does know what's up,
Yeah, she does way better makeup than I ever could.
right? But that
Oh,
is the story of Christine Jorgensen.
I love that. Okay. I have okay, so I'm just gonna start off with telling you that I have 18 pages of notes, but it's only because of the size of my screen and that I have 7,000 pictures.
I'm
There's
not
really not
panicking.
there's really not 18 pages of notes.
Okay.
I'm gonna do my best to hit you this in 15 minutes or less, okay? Okay.
Look, your time limits are on you.
I know. I have a performance to go to this evening. I am going to
Yep.
tell you it's it's a it's a marching performance, if you will. I think I'm going to start off with my favorite headline. Madam of San Francisco, Mayor of Sausalito, the wild life of one of Marin County's most devoted civil servants.
Now, I'm assuming Madam is in brothel owner.
You'd be right. Yeah,
I am buckled up and ready.
as you should be. So my sources are Sally Stanford. Let's see if I can read this to you correctly. SallyStanford.org. She has her little website. The headline I just
I
gave you.
know this. Carry on.
Do you? Okay. The Tenderloin brothel madam who becomes mayor of Sausalito. The Tiger is Dead, which includes, I didn't fully understand this website, but I kept it because it included her entire obituary and I absolutely loved it. There's a New York Times article and then a San Francisco Chronicle.com article from 2020. We Sinners Never Give Up, Sally Stanford's journey from madam to mayor. And how much of the story do you know?
Mostly just about Stanford himself.
Okay, fantastic. So, Mabel Janice Busby was born in Baker City, Oregon in 1903. She's the second of five children. It's said that her wild spirit showed early in life, but unfortunately, I don't have much info on her childhood. I do know that her father died when she was young, and she worked as a caddy to help support the family. I think is super cute. Um, I do also know that she left school at the wide old age of somewhere around 8 years old or third grade, you
I
know?
mean, look, I knew everything I needed to know by 8.
Truly, right? Like, I just need to know where to get the good cheese. That's really what matters. Around 16, she elopes with a less than reputable fellow called Dan Gooden. He would be number one of possibly eight, more likely five husbands.
If at
The
first you
information
don't
there.
succeed,
Try five more times. Think like Elizabeth Taylor. I'm just
I mean, look, worst case scenario, you get a diamond named after you.
truly, right? And in just like Miss Taylor, she may have married more than one of her husbands more than once. So there's that. Um,
She already
long,
understands him, like she started
yeah.
the training process and kind of quit halfway through the full installation wizard. Who among us?
Here we are, you know? The info is a little bit murky here, but she basically gets herself into legal trouble for cashing a check her husband. Ironically, she said it had been given to her by her husband to buy an iron. However, this check is a stolen check and it wins her a 2-year sentence in prison.
My husband has done some things that have made me a little angry, a little testy.
Yeah.
And if I go down, it's not because I'm buying a clothes iron.
That's exactly what I thought. While she's in there, she learns the art of bootlegging and running a speakeasy. And after her release, she lands in Ventura, where she opens a speakeasy. Once she's saved enough money, and by this time she's married to husband number two, and only 21 years old, the entrepreneur moves to San Francisco and at 693 O'Farrell Street in the Tenderloin immediately opens a brothel. KQED had a really great quote about this time in her life saying, Stanford's dazzling confidence, wit, and steadfast ability to keep secrets quickly made her an infamous figure in the city. She was arrested repeatedly, but charges against her rarely stuck, in part because of her friends in high places. Also, according to KQED, her biography says that she says, quote, the politics of the town were dominated by Mayor Jimmy Rolfe. He was a doll, a political dreamboat. Not only did Jimmy do okay, but the rest of us did pretty well too. For if there was ever a live and let live type, it was Mayor Rudolph. Mayor Rudolph. At this point, we're in the 1920s. It's easier to come by professional female company in San Francisco than it is to catch a rash in a leper colony. Her words, not mine. She had it in pretty good with the local PD, as well as obviously political figures. I mean, the mayor and her were buddies. She would spend the better part of 25 years entertaining the city's male population. In the late 1920s, she would succeed Tessie Wall as the queen of San Francisco's high-tone bordello. Now, like I said, she may have had it mostly good with the law, but it wasn't entirely without trouble. Given her profession as a madam, she was arrested 17 times, but only found guilty twice. At around 1924, she sees fit to change her name. It's believed that in over half a century, she changed her name upwards of 28 times, which I think is just absolutely wild, right?
She got to test
However,
this out more than she tests marriages because let's face it, there's a bit more baggage that comes with a divorce.
truly, I guess, yeah. I'm just gonna keep my screen up, so I'm sorry I can't see you, but I can't see my notes for whatever reason. So I'm just gonna keep my whole screen up. So, like I said, it's 1924. She sees fit to change her name, and she chooses her first name, Sally, based on the song I Wonder What Became of Sally. And then, listening to a Cal
Wait,
Stanford
wait, wait.
football game,
She changed her name to What Became of Sally?
because of the song I Wonder What Became of
Oh,
Sally, she chose
okay.
Sally as her first name.
Got you.
And then while listening to a Cal Stanford football game, she decides to make the name of the winner of the game her last name. Stanford won, so Sally Stanford, as we know her, was born.
I kind of wish two different teams were playing. I don't know
Well,
which teams.
yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I love the idea. In another funny side note, she actually does choose to name her dog Leland, which makes me laugh. It's like, I love that for you. Around this time, she decides to move. So she's lived at 634 O'Farrell. There was then 676 Geary and then 750 Taylor and so on. And I think it's just fantastic that we have the addresses of the place where she kept her bordellos. Her moves were not only decided by ambition to trade up, but also to stay ahead of the police that could not be bought. Um,
Mm.
right? Okay, so after several encounters with the law, Sanford decided that she wanted to stop running, and she required what she called her fortress at 1144 Pine, a grand, secluded, and elegant residence. This house was in an upscale neighborhood, and she said that, quote, the neighbors had more to do than peek through the drapes. Stanford would call it the finest and most distinguished pleasure house in the world, maybe even the universe. I just love her so much. By 1930, she would have several establishments and no trouble filling them with the young and beautiful. She hired showgirls, models, Hollywood transplants, and even a few disgruntled divorcees. Life magazine labels her girls as specially selected hostesses. In her autobiography, she writes, "Starving, jobless dames, forget it. They wanted to have intercourse with men for money. Some were just plain lazy. Others had the strange idea that any activity illicit was in nature glamorous." She gets it.
I
Made
love
me
that.
laugh. I love her so much. Her establishment saw dignitaries such as sheiks and princes and celebrities of all sorts, like Earl Flynn and Humphrey Bogart, before Lauren Bacall showed up. Unfortunately, she considered Bogart, quote, "a foul-mouthed, pugnacious drunk who came around to badger, belittle, and insult the girls." So she banned him
Oh,
because she's a boss like that. And not only that, but there seems to be some real mutual respect between her and her girls. She saw the value in them and they worked hard for her. She paid them 60%, which I think is worth noting. Not only that, but they would go out on the town with her, like the opera, the theater, things like that, like big grand things. One columnist also remembers her girls always looking lovely and wearing a corsage of gardenia.
gardenia?
I also, what did I say? Gardenia?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't,
gardenia. Yeah,
okay.
I definitely said it wrong. You're right.
I just thought that
Um,
maybe there was a really cool exotic flower I'd never heard of.
no, I blew it. This columnist also points out that her establishment was the who's who of powerful men in its heyday in 1945 because delegates of 50 nations were in the
Delegates?
city. Delegates,
Would
God
you like
help
me to
me.
do the rest of it?
Yes. Delegates of 50 nations were in the city for the founding conference for the UN. According to foundsanfrancisco.org, it is said that the UN came into being during negotiating sessions at Sally Stanford's. Stanford was bemused by the influx of international leechers,
Wait.
saying,
Lectures?
yes.
Okay,
Hey,
I'm just
listen,
imagining her having a business wing of
I'm
like,
feeling, yeah.
listen,
No, go ahead.
Sultan, you only have this conference room from 1:30 to 2:45. After
Okay.
that,
The sheik's coming in.
look, you're booked. You're busy elsewhere. You have a hard stop.
That's exactly what I see as well. And just to clarify, I can't read today. I've been dealing with lots of vertigo, so reading and words are extra hard.
I'm just here to be like,
You
that's
said that wrong.
that's not the word you meant.
Yeah. Uh, she loved having the gentleman there. She said if I had been arrested, I could have declared diplomatic immunity.
Girl,
Right? Um, I do
I've
want to
got three
mention,
kings here to pay my bail.
right? I do want to mention that while she was mostly sitting pretty with the police, she did have a nemesis in one vice cop, unironically called Dick Dyer. She, quote, played the white whale to his Captain Ahab. She foiled him time and time again. Whenever he'd used disguises, they were easily recognized. His attempts at dissembling his voice on the telephone fooled no one.
Disguising?
Nope. She said dissembling.
Dissembling. What does that
Disassembling.
mean?
I think disguise
I
is the
think
same
I
thing.
get a hamburger and what's
Yeah.
thank you.
It fooled no one. They always hung up on him. One time, Dyer tried crawling around on Stanford's roof, but she spotted him through the skylight and called the police. "There's a prowler on the premises," she said. The men in blue responded promptly, arresting the miscreant for trespassing.
I'm one of you guys. I'm one of you guys. Check my pocket.
Yeah,
Brian.
right?
I was at your barbecue this weekend.
Right. Let's just say there was a collective sigh of relief from everyone in high places if and when she was arrested that her appointment book was never entered into evidence. Except for Dyer, of course, because he was not attending her brothels. Now, here's where I pivot and take her story on a completely different journey. It's between 1948 and 1949 that she moves to Sausalito and opens a restaurant called Valhalla. However, her reputation did precede her, and everyone is nosy. The grand opening on March 27 of 1950, practically the whole town shows up. She tells the San Francisco Chronicle, quote, "Why, we even had a rainbow this afternoon. One even came down and touched the place. What a better omen for a pot of gold."
I
This
love
woman.
her.
People such as Marlon Brando and the godmother of sci-fi herself, Lucille Ball, were patrons,
Dun, dun,
right?
dun.
Now, the restaurant was advertised strictly for wining and dining, but the local mill got a rumor, and it's believed that there is a red light that hangs in the back of the building, could have suggested otherwise, but we don't know for sure. What we do know is
I'd
that
have
she is
had
loved
red lights turned on randomly in the most
freaking
bizarre
everywhere,
places.
right?
You
Yeah,
know
in
what I
the
mean?
kitchen.
Just a random
Yep.
garter on one light.
hmm What we do know is she's loved, she's supported, and a neighborhood favorite. The year's 1962, and she has now been a law-abiding citizen of Marin County for a decade, and she wants to hang electric sign. So the city fathers tell her no, so she runs for city council using her current name of Marcia Owens, which she adopted when she adopted her first child, John Owen. She would also adopt a daughter, Hera Melinda Owen, better known as Sharon. So anyway, she enters politics, and it's worth saying that her campaign emphasized building a public toilet and adding money to the police department, but she lost and would lose like 4 more times. In her sixth time,
But if at first you don't succeed
try
in
4 more times.
marriage or changing your name,
Try 4 more times, right? In her sixth attempt, 1972, 10 years later, and running as Sally Stanford, she made it, if only to hear herself being addressed as Madam Councilman. I am here for this level of petty. During her victory party, her statement regarding her win was, quote, "We sinners never give up." Unclear if she meant the partying, as it was nearly daylight, or the politics, but either way, it's a good comment.
girl, whatever you got to do, like I am here for that.
Right? There's a caption under a photo of her hanging up a poster saying, quote, "Sally Stanford nails up sign boasting her candidacy in this upper middle class suburb, lamenting a general breakdown in morals, excuse me. The retired madam of San Francisco's best known bordello is running for city council with the support of the local women's club." I love her. And it just shows me how far she's come and what the world actually values. Like, she was here to make a difference, and it didn't really matter what she did before. She's incredibly popular, and in 1976, at 70 years old, she becomes the mayor. The San Francisco Chronicle says, quote, "When Stanford won election to a second term in 76, she was a top vote getter and became mayor of Sausalito. Her first official act as mayor was to adjourn the council meeting and break out a case of champagne from her restaurant. I should have run for president of the United States," she said. "At least there's some dough in it for me."
Right?
She never missed a meeting. She was known to doze off during the boring parts.
Who among
Um,
us?
right? She was known to bend the rules a little. She always smoked, so when a new no smoking regulation passed, she left the next couple of sessions to go into the hall to smoke. After that, she just kept smoking and was never cited for it. She was known for tremendous philanthropy. She funded a Rotary Club scholarship program for trades, anonymously paid the funerals for the homeless, mailing
Oh,
money in unmarked envelopes to disaster victims. She picked up the checks of soldiers who ate at Valhalla. She sponsored a little league team and served as the vice president for the local chamber of commerce. Additionally, she was involved in the establishment of the Sausalito Public Library, and she contributed heavily to charities such as Guide Dogs for the Blind, leaving an estimate of roughly 20 million to the organization,
holy cow, that's one
right?
heck of a brothel.
In 1980, after her decision to retire, the council insisted on naming her the vice mayor for life. Stanford survived multiple robberies at gunpoint in her establishments, one bout of colon cancer, and 11 heart attacks. The 12th and last heart attack would take her on February 1, 1982, and that would be the one that got her. So the flew the flags half-mast for the Madam Mayor of Sausalito.
Dang.
Right? I have a great quote about her. Jerry Taylor, who's the president of the Sausalito Historical Society, he's known as Mr. Sausalito, recalls that Sanford was a strong advocate of property rights and bought underwater lots to keep them from being built on because that would have spoiled the view of the bay for her neighbors.
Wow.
So, with that said, I have just a couple minutes left, but I want to show you a few fun pictures of her.
I'm here for it.
Okay. So this is her frenemy with this giant rolling pin. She was a
Yeah.
neighboring restaurateur. Um, I loved her so much. Her comment is that she was also loyal, evidenced by her years of frequenting Juanita's Gallery, a Sausalito restaurant operated by her frenemy, the potty-mouthed, heavy-drinking, moo-moo-wearing, big-haired, 300-pound Juanita Musin, who thrived on insulting patrons.
I mean, look, we all want, she looks like the kind of woman who would dish out a hell of an
Right?
insult.
So that's her friend. This is her.
Okay, so Angie is sharing a big bun wearing woman, like the kind of like we're talking um Anna Green Gables
Mm-hmm.
style, the bun where the hair at the top is very like over like it kind of comes up and then gets pulled back. Like I don't know how you do that with a lot of teasing, very truthfully. I'm just gonna say that. Um, but
That's her
she
signature look.
just like that, like the very
Uh-huh.
grandmotherly, like I could
Yes.
be knitting. Okay, that's her younger. So she's got the mink stole over her shoulder, the, dress jacket that goes up to the neck because she's a lady, and her hair, ornately put up on her head. Very
Like you would
awesome.
imagine.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
alligator
Oh, this is
bag.
her memoir, The Lady of the House, which I think is awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on
Oh,
it. I love this image of her. She's got the classic hat,
oh
the
yeah,
look
no,
of the
yeah.
late 40s. Ugh,
And I
always nails
love that
red.
neck.
Mm-hmm.
Like the neckline there where you just have like it just there's no
Yes.
necessarily collar, but it comes to the collar bones and then there's like a little crack, a little descent, a
Yep.
little crevice that goes down to the bosom. Very fantastic. Another fantastic bun. She's got a conure on her arm.
Yep.
Very
This is
Victorian
her
sitting
voting.
room. She looks drunk in that photo.
She probably was.
Good for her.
That's the photo they put in her obituary, and it makes me laugh so freaking hard. Of all the
So,
amazing photos, you choose the one where she's smoking and clearly laid back. I'm here for it.
oh yeah, no, I mean honestly, everything about that there's a beer in her other hand and it's like
Oh,
a
I'm sure of
can
it.
of Bud Light.
Yeah, I when I learned about her, I immediately had to pivot everything I was previously looking at to tell you her story because I was like, what? This is so on brand for the San Francisco area. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I honestly,
Right?
all about this
That's my girl.
checks.
That's my girl, Sally Stanford.
So if you are enjoying the stories of the unhinged, if you are looking for yet another brothel owner and madam who has graced the cover of history and
And the
destroyed
rap
our
sheets.
brains, yes. And you are thinking, golly gee willikers, just what 50s reference are they going to bring to us next week? Because we had two bangers this week. Rate, review, subscribe, and share us with your favorite fish and chips maker, the one who wraps it up in the newspaper.
Yeah. And hopefully they're next door to your favorite uh
Brothel,
mayor. Yeah,
bordello,
yeah. Live your life.
brothel and bordello, because those are two very different things. On that note, goodbye.
I
You
love
gotta,
it.
you gotta say goodbye.
I do. Oh, bye.
Excuse me. We're not doing that. Thank you. No, I'm separating you because you're insane.
Could we just keep that in the footage, please? I'm separating you. You're insane.
I mean, look.